NewstalkZB, it is now 22 to 6. And we go to the Huddle. Josie Pagani is with us. Hello, Josie.
Hi, Larry.
And Cam Slater from Whale Oil and editor of The Truth. G'day, Cam.
G'day, Larry.
Josie, issue number one, the latest polls. TV1 has the government down, TV3 has the government about the same, so nothing much changes. The Labour-Green government, I have said for some time, is still on the cards because the government doesn't have many, if any, allies, and it's a simple numbers game. What do you see in this?
Yeah, you're right, Larry. That's the big problem for the Nats, is they don't have a coalition partner. So it's interesting, isn't it, that Winston Peters has been particularly nice to them in the last few weeks by supporting the GCSB proposals. But I think there's a general trend down for National and down for John Key as preferred PM, and a general trend up for Labour and Greens, but it is quite small. But you know, I was thinking, why is this? Well, it's partly the GCSB stuff and a feeling of jobs for the boys, you know, Susan Devoy, girls in this case.
Yeah.
But I think it's much more about, there's just nothing to get excited about from the government. There's no big growth plan. It's a government of photo ops at the moment. You know, we've got John Key's travel postcards, and while we're all terribly excited about Maurice Williamson's appearance on Ellen DeGeneres' show, it's not exactly a growth plan, is it, Larry?
All right, OK. I don't think it's about the GCSB at all, Cameron, because I think most New Zealanders understand that the GCSB has to assist the SIS and police to intercept communication. I think it's a red herring.
It's not about GCSB. I was talking to one of the guys who works on the press that prints our paper each week. And he says, what's all this stuff about the GCSB? What's an insurance company got to do with all of this? And those are the sorts of people who Josie would like to think are Labour voters, and they just don't care about that issue.
I agree with you.
Hang on.
Hold on, Josie.
Yeah, it's your turn. I think actually these polls are showing that the methodology of the polling companies is all over the place. They're up and down, really, I can't say that on radio, really, what I'd normally say on my blog, but they're all over the place. There's no consistency in the polls. I think Roy Morgan's on crack. Colmar Brunton's not far behind, and even the TV3 numbers are way too high. What it really shows, though, is that David Shearer is locked in now as the leader. Grant Robertson was going to try and tip him out while he was visiting his secret vault in the United States, and he even put out a press release putting himself as the Labour leader. That's all dead now because of the polls, and so David Shearer is a lock, and I think John Key's quite keen on having David Shearer head-to-head in debate.
Josie, Josie, before you move on, the polls, these latest polls, didn't include the power policy. Do you think that would have made a difference?
No, they didn't, but it was around the time that there was a lot of noise about the Mighty River Power float, and I mean, we know from past polls that it's unpopular, no matter how much you might do the numbers on how many people might sign up for shares. The truth is it's only really about 10% of the population who've done that. So I think it'll be
still
interesting to see.
Still more than sign the petition, though, isn't it, Josie?
Well, no, the point is it's not. When you've got 10% of people who might buy shares, you've got 90% of people whose power bills are too high.
And when you've got less than 10% signing a petition, you've got more than 90% saying, go away, you skanky revisitors of democracy and things like that. I mean, if you're going to use that argument, it cuts for the exactly the same for the petition.
Yeah, but Larry's point is, would it have made a difference if this poll had been taken around the time of the Labour Greens? And
I think it would have slaughtered Labour and the Greens for their...
Hold on, Cameron.
I don't know about that. Let's see, because that's the point I'm making. You've got about 10% of people who've signed up to buy shares in Mighty River Power. You've got about 90% of people whose bills are too high.
Rubbish.
So just do the maths.
So what they're going to hold out is that the model in South Korea is the way to go.
Here we go, the dancing Cossacks.
No, I said South Korea. Well, you're not listening. That's the model the Greens are saying. We need to be like South Korea. But they ignore how South Korea generates their power. It's 35% nuclear power. The Greens now embracing nuclear power. Fill your boots. That's a brilliant policy if that's the way we're going to lower our power price.
All right, we'll come back in just a moment. Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani on the Huddle. It's now 17 to 6.
Larry Williams Drive. With the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more.
Back on the Huddle, it is 15 to 6 with Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. Cameron, I'm going to come to you first on this one, and then, Josie, you can respond. The power policy, what is your take on this? I there's quite a dramatic move to the left on behalf of Labor. What do you see in it?
I think it's outrageous. I think it is economic sabotage and economic terrorism. And then when you add in Winston Peters' decision, which no doubt he won't have checked with his own party, to say that he is going to pick the pockets of all those New Zealanders with KiwiSavers accounts, steal their savings, their retirement savings, so that he can spend the money on doing whatever he wants with that, in this case buying back Contact Energy. When you put all of those three together into a mix, you have a very, very dangerous situation.
Well, let's go to you, Josie. I think Mr. Peters, let's leave Mr. Peters' policy to one side, because that's Looney Tunes. The government doesn't actually own KiwiSaver funds. Josie, why do you think this is a reasonable sort of policy for Labor and the Greens?
Well, because I see it as a similar model to something like Fonterra, where you've got a single buyer. So most farmers sell their milk to Fonterra, and we buy our milk predominantly from Fonterra, right? So the idea of having a single buyer in the market for electricity, to me, is not some kind of massive North Korean
and the price of milk is going up. And
hold on, Cameron, hold on.
That's nothing to do with that. That's to do with the overseas prices, and we've debated that before on this program too. But the point is that this model can work, and all you're doing is normalising those profits, which are extraordinary, because you've got a handful of big companies generating power. Now, that's fine if they're publicly owned. The minute they're not publicly owned, a model like this makes sense to me. I don't see what the big problem is.
Zespri, same model. How's that going for us all?
Well,
not so well.
How's Fonterra going? Well, that's the model's not the problem. There's a whole heap of other problems.
I remember Labor putting out press releases about the price of cheese being extortionate.
So would you call Fonterra a massive communist?
No, absolutely. It should be disbanded.
Right, okay. So Fonterra is the...
Well, hold on, Josie. I mean, the difference is there. If you can actually sell your milk to other companies. Let's move away from Fonterra. The problem here, Josie, is that this has the potential to strip billions of dollars of value.
Already has.
From, there's 700 million in the last couple of days of asset write-downs and lost dividends. This has the potential to seriously damage this country's economy. There is something called capital flight. And this is real because investors and New Zealanders I'm talking about and KiwiSaver funds, fund managers will say, why should we invest in this country? What else is next?
Supermarkets will be next, Larry.
But I think you're making a huge leap there from this model, which is basically saying that we're better to keep those. I mean, that money's staying in the economy, right?
Housing.
So all you're doing is you're transferring that super profit from the generators, and let's assume they're privatised government. So that money's staying in the economy because it's going into the pockets of consumers who will have lower prices and more money to spend.
It's going to cost billions, Josie.
This isn't about saying no to foreign investment.
No, hold on.
I mean, let's look at
the power companies will lose something like $700 million a year. That's Labor's figures and Greens' figures. That's not my figures.
It's worse than that, Larry, because Labor has come out.
That's staying in the economy.
And how come the dividends don't matter now, Josie? How come the dividends don't matter now when their argument against the sales was the loss of dividends?
Because if you sell them, you're going to lose the dividends for Contact.
But you're going to give them away. You're going to forego them.
Contact Energy, the dividends go to Australian shareholders.
And New Zealand shareholders, the mum and dads who have had billions wiped off the value of their asset because of Labor's sabotage. It's outrageous. What's going to be next? What's going to stop Labor, who already have a policy about fruit and vegetables being too expensive, from nationalising the two supermarket chains? What's going to stop them doing it for petrol? What's going to stop them from doing it for housing? It goes on and on. You've got an affordable housing policy that says houses are too expensive.
I can build my own house and I can pay someone to build a house for me.
I'm not build
dependent on one source to build my house. That's the difference.
All right. Thank you for both coming on the program. That is Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. NewstalkZB. It is now 10 to 6.